Has the Las Vegas Strip become unaffordable for tourists? It's been a
burger cost at some of these restaurants.
The burger, that's a whole nother story there, sir.
Just like straight out of the freezer when you cook it in your oven at home.
It's Tuesday morning in 2025, and the casino floor at Caesar's Palace sits eerily quiet. This isn't the brief lull between rushes. This is a sustained, unnerving silence. The iconic Las Vegas Strip, a place synonymous with chaos, energy, and the promise of possibility, now echoes with emptiness. Dealers lean against silent craps tables, their faces reflecting the neon lights onto polished felt that hasn't seen a chip in hours. The Five Guys on Las Vegas Boulevard, a place where lines once snaked out the door at all hours, stands nearly empty. A handful of customers drift in and out, their voices swallowed by a space designed for thousands. The air, once thick with anticipation, cigarette smoke, and the cacophony of slot machines paying out, now feels heavy with something else: absence. The numbers confirm what the eye cannot miss. Occupancy rates across the city have plunged to just 78.7%. Visitor numbers are down by as much as 12% compared to the previous year. September marked the 9th straight month of year-over-year decline. This is not a fluke. It's not a market correction. It is the result of a bold, almost defiant new strategy openly admitted by the men who run this city. One chief executive put it bluntly: "We only want rich people. The old Vegas is dead, and they killed it on purpose." Why did the city that promised everyone belonged, that built its legend on inclusion, decide to push the average American away? The answer reveals a crisis not just of tourism, but of identity, one that could change Las Vegas forever. The silence isn't accidental. It's the sound of a city choosing who gets to stay and who is no longer welcome. At the heart of the Strip's new silence are the people who once kept it alive. The rhythm of the city has slowed, and for the 250,000 hospitality workers in the Las Vegas area, nearly a quarter of the region's entire workforce, the slowdown is devastating. Dealers, bartenders, cocktail servers, and cooks now live in a state of perpetual limbo. They wait by their phones, hoping for a call that rarely comes. For many, being on call no longer means a steady paycheck or predictable hours. It means weeks, sometimes months, without a single scheduled shift. They are ghosts in their own workplace, technically employed, but rarely summoned. This is Maria Sanchez. She's worked as a cocktail waitress at a major Strip property for 18 years. She tells me that she hasn't worked a full week in 6 months. She says her savings are gone, emphasizing that the anxiety of checking the shift app every morning is paralyzing. The casino floor is their stage, but these days, the curtains rarely rise. Instead, they pace empty break rooms, trade rumors about layoffs, and wonder how long they can hold out before the eviction notice arrives. For those who do get hours, the reward is a fraction of what it was. Tips, the lifeblood of a service worker's income in Nevada, have evaporated. Some report bringing home only 40% of what they made just 2 years ago. A base wage of $5 or $6 an hour barely covers the gas for the commute. Many workers drive 45 minutes each way from North Las Vegas or Henderson just to chase the chance of a shift, hoping that maybe tonight the tables will fill up. A blackjack dealer with 20 years on the job, who asked not to be named for fear of retaliation, puts it simply: "I used to work 5 days a week, steady. Now I'm lucky if I get 2. My tips? They're a third of what I made last year." He looks around the empty pit where he works. "I cannot remember the last time I felt truly welcome in my own city." The promise of Vegas was always that hard work, dealing with the chaos and the tourists, could lead to a good life, a house, a car, sending your kids to college. Now that promise feels as empty as the seats at the tables they once filled. The human cost of the new strategy isn't measured in stock prices. It's measured in sleepless nights and empty refrigerators. There was a time when Las Vegas promised more than just neon and spectacle. For decades, the city built its legend on a simple, powerful idea: anyone could belong. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from. A school teacher from Ohio saving up for a weekend getaway, a retired couple from Bakersfield driving in with their RV, a group of friends splitting gas money for the drive from Arizona, each found the same welcome. The Strip was a parade of possibility, not privilege. The math was simple, and it worked. Las Vegas thrived on inclusion. 40 million visitors a year poured into the city before 2024, drawn not by exclusivity, but by the promise that the doors were open to everyone. Rooms could be had for $49 or $59 a night, sometimes less if you booked midweek. Parking was free, everywhere, no questions asked. It was considered a right, not a perk. The clatter of chips at $5 blackjack tables mixed with laughter and the steady, satisfying rattle of coins from slot machines. Buffets stood as monuments to American abundance. $20 or $30 bought you all you could eat, with lines of desserts, carving stations, and seafood stretching almost as far as the eye could see. For families, a 3-night escape cost around $1,200. Enough for a room, a few shows, and maybe a little luck at the tables. Drinks flowed freely for anyone willing to try their hand, and even a modest night at the slots might earn you a comped breakfast or a discounted stay for next time. The city's greatest trick was making the ordinary feel extraordinary, turning everyday people into high rollers, if only for a weekend. The ritual of the buffet, the thrill of a cheap table, the camaraderie of strangers trading stories over a low-stakes hand, these were the rhythms that gave Las Vegas its pulse. There was no velvet rope, no sense that the fun stopped at a certain income bracket. The lights on the Strip didn't just beckon the wealthy. They called out to anyone chasing a break from routine, anyone who wanted to believe that for a few days, they too could be part of something big. But those rituals are dying. Some are already gone. The last trays of crab legs at the Bellagio buffet disappeared in May 2024. Regulars lingered, clutching souvenir glasses, watching empty serving stations where towers of shrimp once promised plenty. The Rio's Carnival World Buffet, a favorite for decades, went dark without fanfare. Caesar's Palace quietly eliminated multiple buffets. Where abundance once reigned, reservation lists and high price tags now stand guard. On the last night at the Bellagio, a line cook named Rosa worked her final shift. For 17 years, she refilled trays and greeted regulars by name. That night, she says, she and her co-workers packed up utensils and wiped down counters in silence. Some wept as the doors closed for good. It wasn't just the loss of a job, it was the end of an era. The buffet was more than a meal. It was a celebration of belonging. Now only polished silver and closed doors remain, and the sense of plenty that once defined Las Vegas has faded into memory. The invitation was open, a seat at the table for the hopeful as much as for the high-rolling. But that Vegas is gone. And it didn't disappear by accident. The change didn't happen overnight, but the confession did. Tom Reeg, CEO of Caesars Entertainment, did not hide behind corporate language when pressed by investors in 2023. The message was blunt, almost shocking in its transparency. You are bringing in higher value customers, and so you are kicking out the lowest end. He wasn't apologizing. He was boasting. The old Vegas, built on volume and welcome mats, was being dismantled and swapped for velvet ropes. Reeg dismissed the era of cheap surf and turf as a relic, making it clear that the Strip's new direction was a blueprint for exclusion. Executives from MGM Resorts International and Wynn Resorts echoed similar priorities. They used softer language, phrases like premium positioning, elevating the guest experience, and up-tiering what we are offering to customers. But the strategy was the same. Fewer guests, but each one spending significantly more. Instead of chasing 40 million visitors a year, the focus shifted to extracting maximum value from a smaller, wealthier crowd. And for a time, the numbers seemed to support the strategy. Visitor counts dropped, but gaming revenue barely flinched. For the men in the boardrooms, this was proof of concept. The city could be emptier, but the money didn't have to leave. Public transcripts and investor calls from 2023 and 2024 show executives openly comfortable with the trade-off. The bottom rung of the customer base was cut loose, and with every statement, the invitation to belong grew smaller. The Strip's new gatekeepers didn't whisper their intentions. They announced them from the conference call pulpit. When the decision comes from the top, exclusion becomes policy, not a byproduct. The implementation of this strategy is felt immediately by anyone trying to visit. It's death by 1,000 fees. A family of 4 arrives in Las Vegas, hoping for a weekend of memories, the way they used to. The first shock comes before they even check in. A standard room, once an afterthought at $60 a night, now runs more than $300. But the advertised price is just the beginning. The bill climbs higher with a mandatory resort fee, $45 per night, non-negotiable, tacked on at checkout for amenities like pool access and Wi-Fi, whether you use them or not. Parking, which used to be a given, adds another $25 a day at most major properties. The total for 3 nights before a single hand is played or a show ticket is bought hovers just below $1,200. That's what the entire trip used to cost. The casino floor, once a playground for every budget, has its own barriers. Table minimums that used to welcome the cautious gambler, the $5 or $10 tables, are virtually extinct. Now, minimums start at $25 or $50, even on a weekday afternoon. On a Saturday night, a $100 minimum is standard. A single hand of blackjack can cost as much as a week's groceries back home. For many, the fun ends before it begins. They walk the floor, observe the action from a distance, and leave without ever sitting down. Even the simple things have changed. The search for affordable food reveals a landscape transformed. 2 burgers, 2 fries, and 2 beers in a standard food court can ring up to $75. The all-you-can-eat buffet, if you can find one open at all, often charges $60 or $80 per person. In place of the old buffets, $200 or even $400 per person, fine dining experiences have taken root. For many, the new options feel less like a feast and more like an audition. By the end of the trip, the total cost for a modest stay, just a room, parking, a few meals, and a handful of games, easily crosses $3,500. The irony is sharp and painful. The city that once built its legend on being affordable for everyone now posts a price tag that quietly but firmly says, "Not for you." The velvet rope is no longer just at the entrance to the nightclub. It's everywhere. It's in the parking garage, at the check-in desk, and at the blackjack table. The doors did not close by mistake. They closed on purpose. And the silence that followed was by design. The strategy looked good on paper. Trade volume for value. But the cracks are starting to show, and the emptiness is spreading beyond the weekend tourists. On a Tuesday morning in September, the Strip's silence deepens. The crowds that once filled hotel lobbies and casino floors in the middle of the week have vanished. For decades, conventions powered Las Vegas through the weekdays. They were the reliable engine of the city's economy. Engineers, teachers, tech sales teams, medical professionals, thousands at a time, their badges swinging as they spilled from ballrooms into restaurants, bars, and casinos. Now the massive convention halls often sit dark, and the ripple effect reaches every corner of the city. Convention attendance has plunged 18.7% compared to last year. This is a catastrophic drop for a segment that was once considered recession-proof. Companies that once filled blocks of thousands of rooms now book their gatherings in Phoenix, Austin, or Nashville, drawn by lower costs, fewer fees, and a sense that their attendees are actually welcome. A planner for a mid-size medical conference who spent years returning to Vegas describes the new reality. "We used to love Vegas," she says, "but the costs have become punitive. We can do the whole event elsewhere for less than just the hotel rooms here. It's no longer viable for our members. The world's biggest shows aren't immune." Even CES, the city's flagship technology event, reports thinner crowds, fewer exhibitors, and a noticeable lack of the after-parties and spontaneous energy that once defined it. Audiovisual technicians and event crews, the behind-the-scenes workers who make these massive events happen, find their hours cut by nearly half. Hotel occupancy, which once held firm at 80 or 90% midweek, now sinks into the low 70s. The strategy from casino headquarters was clear: fewer guests, spending more. But as conventions disappear, the numbers don't add up. The midweek lifeline is unraveling. And where did the crowds go? The empty seats on the Strip didn't stay empty for long. They simply moved. Across the United States, the options multiplied. The people Vegas pushed out found new homes. Tribal and regional casinos in Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and New York saw record-breaking crowds. They adopted the old Vegas model, offering $5 tables, affordable food, and free parking as their calling card. Their billboards made a promise long since abandoned on Las Vegas Boulevard: everyone's invited. With 33 states now home to legal commercial casinos, the need to fly across the continent for a weekend of cards and camaraderie faded. A drive of 45 minutes replaced a journey of 4 hours in the air. The convenience is undeniable. Furthermore, the explosion of online sports betting made the decision even easier. Wagers placed from a living room, no airfare, no resort fee, no $25 parking required. For those who once saved all year for a Vegas trip, the math simply no longer added up. The strategy is even showing cracks at the high end. Luxury travelers, the very whales the casinos are courting, have found new playgrounds. The high rollers who once filled the Strip's penthouses now chase bigger thrills and superior service in Macau or Singapore. These destinations offer a level of spectacle and exclusivity that increasingly outshines the new, sterile luxury of Vegas. Families, once a staple of the city's crowds, now pack for theme parks, beach resorts, or road trips closer to home where their budget doesn't evaporate upon arrival. The invitation to belong has been quietly rescinded. The silence in the meeting halls and the empty tables on the casino floor isn't just absence. It's a warning. The Strip's foundations, once built on volume and energy, now rest on a shrinking core. What is happening in Las Vegas is more than just a shift in tourism strategy. It is a microcosm of a larger, unsettling trend across America: the increasing economic segregation of leisure, travel, and public space. The deliberate pricing out of the middle class, the replacement of accessible fun with curated luxury, reflects a growing divide where experiences are increasingly sorted by income bracket. Vegas used to be the exception to this rule. It was the great equalizer. Now it is the prime example. The sustainability of this model is questionable at best. The brand of Las Vegas was built on energy, excitement, chaos, and the intoxicating feeling that anything could happen. It was built on crowds. When a city actively pursues silence and exclusion, it risks erasing the very energy that made it famous. An empty casino, no matter how luxurious the fixtures, is a depressing place. The excitement of a win is amplified when shared with a crowd. The sting of a loss is softened by the camaraderie of others trying their luck. Without the crowds, the electricity is gone. Furthermore, the strategy relies on a dangerous assumption that the wealthy will always be there and always be willing to pay the premium. But the wealthy are fickle. They chase the new, the exclusive, and the exciting. When Macau offers a better experience, or when the novelty of the $400 dinner wears off, they will leave too. And when they do, what remains? A city that has alienated its base, crippled its workforce, and dismantled the infrastructure of mass tourism will find it incredibly difficult to pivot back. The executives have made a massive gamble. They bet the soul of the city against the promise of higher margins. They traded belonging for a different kind of profit. We return to the Strip on Saturday night. The lights still flicker, the fountains still dance, but the sidewalks that once throbbed with the energy of tourists from every corner of the world now stretch wide and bare. The silence at Caesar's Palace is impossible to ignore. The city looks the same in lights and signage, but the atmosphere that made Las Vegas feel open to everyone is gone. Vegas built its fortune on the idea that everyone deserved a seat at the table. But today, the shuttered buffets, the prohibitive table minimums, and the empty convention halls signal a city closing its doors to millions. The real gamble now is not at the tables. It is whether the soul of Vegas survives without the crowds who once gave it life. A city built on belonging cannot survive by shutting people out. When the house changes the rules, how long before everyone else walks away? Like, subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss any updates from us.